Okay, welcome here to a true Kerfuffle exclusive, because we have got not one, not two, but three of the most important people around at the moment. I'm going to have to start from the top because he's next to me here in a wonderful white top, looking effervescent as usual. Damon Bullymore, how are you of BriefYourMarket, sir?
Very well, Simon. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to the experience.
Yeah, you couldn't sound more bored there, Damon. Thanks. We'll come back to you there. Work on your energy levels, if you don't mind, by the time we come back to it.
I'll try.
I know I don't have to worry about that with Rich, because I can see him smiling away there. How are you, Rich Comalak? Are you well?
I'm very well. Very excited to be here.
You
really
are
excited.
That's exactly it. You've got the headphones on. I love the bins. They're very, very trendy. And then Mr. Cook himself, how are you?
Very good, Simon. And I'm somewhere between the two of them.
Well, there's a revelation there I didn't expect to get. Property industry exclusive. Okay, so we're here today, although it happened a few months ago, of course, and I think it's actually good. It's good that we're actually doing it a little bit later now to talk about, obviously, Nurtur Group, as it was obviously acquisition of BriefYourMarket, and how that is really starting to complete the prop tech picture for agents. Just remind us again, when was the actual deal originally done?
March.
March. Okay, cool. So you've obviously, the Nurtur's kicked off on the back of obviously Guild, Finding Country, eProp and everything else there, John. You've acquired a few players obviously within this prop tech sector over the last 2 years. Do you want to talk to us just though about this business acquisition background and what the goal is for the group at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I believe we're slightly uniquely positioned in that we've grown up from the ground as estate agents. We've been around the estate agency industry either as operators or suppliers over the last 30 plus years. Most of our team have worked in an estate agents at some point. And so that gives us that unique sort of bridge between prop tech and actually the estate agency industry. And that's sort of quite unique to the Nurtur Group. It's sort of estate agencies through our DNA. However, we see the opportunities that technology brings to digitalize processes, take cost out, and create lead generation. And I suppose the crux of it is that we see people having, as a business owners, it's tough out there, certainly probably going to get a bit tougher. And we see businesses probably having 3 key relationships and only needing those 3 key relationships. Portals, sensible to have a relationship with a portal or maybe 3 portals, that's your choice. Yeah. A CRM supplier, sensible to have a filing cabinet in your office where you put all your information. And then we feel also that it's sensible to have a prop tech wrapper. And we're in a position where that relationship for some of our customers can just be with ourselves, because we can offer a number of services that I'm sure Damon and Rich are going to talk about how they'll be integrated. And
we'll talk about the Nurtur Group just on the kind of accelerator point later on as well. But I think what's really important there is this isn't just you guys strategizing, from the top in terms of why this is important. But I do know for a fact that this is what a lot of your members and agent clients are asking for, isn't it? It can be quite bewildering out there, can't it, with the amazing amount of choice there is.
Yeah. I think one of the comments that's bandied around the industry, to be honest, Simon, is dashboard fatigue. It seems to be the word of last year, and yeah, they are getting a bit bored by the amount of different prop techs and getting a bit confused by it. There's actually quite a good service out there that helps them find what's good prop tech out there that I've heard about, Simon.
Good. This fella's good. I was just about to say thanks, because I've just sent a marketing campaign out all about my dashboard. So, but you've pulled that. But I think it's absolutely true, isn't it? Look, what we do know is that agents on average have 20 different bits of kit, both estate agency and lettings agency specific suppliers, and that's a lot of kit to have out there, isn't it? And when you think that on our website alone there's 800 providers and we're adding about 30 a month, ironically, it's a tougher market, but it's showing no signs of slowing, is it, this innovation?
No, I think the key foundation for a good agency business is people, and it always will be people. Yeah, and it's an industry that is about dealing with people, and if you've got great people in your business, you'll succeed. Technology has to be part of the strategy, but technology really becomes more of a part of strategy when you align it to process. And I think it's becoming more and more important for agents to focus on the processes within their organizations, using technology to help customers flow through from a lead all the way to a completion and understanding return on investment. And one thing I was really pleased of when we met with BYM, we've known Damon for years, but when we got into more detailed conversations, is there's a relentless focus on return on investment. In other words, what does the pound I'm spending make me? And that I think is ingrained in our DNA now. We've learned a lot from the BYM acquisition. We've learned how that focus is important to us as an organisation as much as it is increasingly to our customers.
Because it's not okay just to leave that answer, sorry, that question unanswered, is it? I mean, one of the problems that has come back is because agents have got so suspicious of the supplier, maybe a certain supplier at a certain CRM company in the past used to tell them you just needed one more instruction to pay for this. It actually led then the suppliers to stop making the ROI argument, and that's entirely wrong, isn't it? Because just like in everything, you need to understand what's being delivered and everything else there. Damon, why do you think that I mean, it's quite hard, isn't it, though, to place. There are some things you can say demonstrably that has come definitely from BYM. Lots of secondary sources of ROI as well. How do you marry that up?
Yeah, I think you have to remember ROI is quite a broad church, really. There's the emphatic ROI where, you can, like you said, demonstrably prove that you've had a valuation and then that's turned to an instruction and therefore for a sale. And I think there's other facets around it where BYM is completely honest, is where we talk about those assets that we've directly influenced. So that's where we've sent a campaign. They've actually clicked on I'd like a viewing, I'd like a valuation, I'd like to instruct my property. And then the other concept is where we sending out brand awareness and they've finally come to do a valuation or a viewing or purchase of property. And we distinctly distinguish between those two facets inside our return on investment.
So demonstrable ROI and then kind of influencing factors, but they're all relevant, aren't they, is the key.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and as I think as we come into a tougher market, because the reality is we can all see that that's potentially likely, then that focus on return on investment is even more important, and using digital to take cost out of your marketing. So that, and I'm seeing that in some of the bigger customers that we work with. They've got a very clear strategy about using digital, improving process, focusing ROI, and they actually end up spending less in the long run.
Yeah. And that point about aligning technology to go with processes. I mean, ultimately what we're all aiming for here is the holy grail of getting to automation that actually allows you to scale more with the same resource and to focus those people within the group on doing the stuff that genuinely is only the stuff they can do. You want to move them away from as much admin as possible, don't you, to the dollar productive activities. That's what most people are looking for, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Simon. I think you can only do that in software, or we can only do that as a group because of what John said earlier, which is we've all had a ground up experience inside agency. So you actually understand the intricate details of how an estate agent operates. And I think without that, you do start to sit in your ivory tower and write technology that's not really solving a problem. It's more about trying to solve something that's not really a problem. Yeah. And that's where, again, Nurtur is such a strong institution. And then you couple that with a distribution arm that's obviously the Guild and Fine and Country, where you have, real life customers that you can go and sit as a group, as a conglomerate, and take such a spread of the country and work out what the real core challenge is. And that becomes very exciting when you're writing software for that group.
I can imagine that entirely. So John's talking specifically about these guys. What was it about Brief Your Market and, of course, Yondell and Know Your Market what was the key interest for you there at Nurtur?
I think, the business has longevity. You know, it's got a very, very, very good loyal customer base that have grown up their businesses with the partnership of innovation with BYM. And you know, whilst as businesses historically we don't get everything right, they've certainly got some customers that have been with them a long time, and clearly that partnership arrangement was very attractive. They saw them as an innovation partner.
Yeah.
And I think the ability to the BYM's understanding of how to coach their customer base on how to use their data, because at the end of the day, it's the agent's data, it's not our data. Yeah, it was very interesting. And the opportunity then across, say, the Guild and Fine and Country to use the agent's data alongside them, create more leads on a national network was quite interesting. And so Ian McKenzie, many of you will know him in the industry, you know, literally is out on the road at the moment talking about how we can drive leads into Guild members. Probably I've been around the Guild for a number of years, and I think finally we've cracked the referral network. We've been talking about it for a long time, but that's probably for another day. So that relationship has been part of the excitement of coming together with BYM. So and you know, just very talented people. I've worked now with Damon and Rich. I've obviously had worked with Rich before in the past, but I've worked with Damon more closely over the last 6 months or so, and it's, you know, you can see there's a depth of talent in the organisation, and as I said earlier, it's all about people.
Absolutely. Well, I don't agree with the Damon comments, but we'll move on quickly from there. I take your point in terms of longevity, but I was talking to you about this, Rich, the other day. One of the biggest challenges you have out there is because you've got such this synonymous name, BYM, people think that they actually understand what BYM is about. But you know, as we catch up with you guys regularly every quarter, and the last one we had was just eye-opening again. First of all, seeing those ROI dashboards so that you really can just understand exactly what you're getting out of this. But also layering in things like Know Your Market and Yondell there. You actually need to say to people, whatever you think you know about Brief Your Market, you need to have another look now, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I wind the clock back to when I joined BriefYourMarket, something like 7 years ago now, people used to band around that, oh, you're that newsletter thing, and that's what they perceived us as, was just a communication tool for brand awareness. Whereas we over the years have expanded and expanded and expanded. So we've got their database that we can obviously market to and do brand awareness, but we can also do targeted campaigns to generate revenue, which Damon was referring to as, you know, the valuation, instruction, ROI tracking, that kind of thing. And we also layer on top on-market data. So we have the competitor data that we draw down to enable them to cross-reference against their own data and target that. We've got off-market data, all the houses in the area to market to the constituency. And then, yeah, we brought on other businesses over the years to fulfill a purpose, really. So like Yondell, we actually brought into the mix because whilst we were sending a lot of leads to agents, they weren't necessarily converting them. Yeah. They didn't have the time to convert them, really. So Yondell gives us another avenue for that. We'll send the lead into a live chat operator instead, who will chat to them live and book a valuation appointment for them, book a mortgage appointment for them, whatever. It will do that. And I think we also have expanded that picture of ROI from just the valuations and instructions to going, well, you need to value every piece of data and how you can monetize it. Can you monetize a lead for mortgages, for conveyancing, regardless of whether they go and buy with you as an agency? They might buy with your competitor, but if you've monetized them and got them in the flow of mortgages and in that funnel, you've captured them and you're going to monetize it anyway. And that's what that sort of wide picture of ROI and the avenue we've gone down is about nowadays. And so yeah, whatever people thought Brief Your Market was, whether they saw the journey back when we were the newsletter thing, it's very, very different now. And obviously we're now part of Nurtur, which adds a lot more strings to the bow and helps us complete a lot bigger picture, really.
But one of the things that I'll be desperately trying, I was hoping you weren't going to say it because it shows I pay attention to stuff. is that, you know, in days gone by where there's been email providers, EDM systems, you know, it was very much a kind of one-way street, wasn't it? You'd pump all your contacts out of your CRM system and then you do your emailing from there. The stuff that genuinely is just now blowing our team away when we're looking at is what you do now with some of that CRM data from the systems that you work with as well, to make best use of what, you know, what they're able to show in their systems, and aligning that with the data that you've already got, obviously, in BriefYourMarket. That's such a powerful combination that I just don't know where you can see anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to be able to see straight away at a glance that all the properties on the market in your area that are on with competitors that you've got an email address or a phone number for. I mean, that's about coupling that data that's feeding straight in out the CRMs, identifying it against your own data and being able to do something with it, because you can then send an email journey to them, text message journey, or just pick up the phone and speak to them.
Yeah. I mean, remember Mark Manning, everyone knows, obviously fantastic Manning states there, he was making the point that because they'd had so many, you know, data conversions moving from the old Solex system, you know, blast from the past there into a repeat and everything else, and with the whatever it was, the 1920 offices, now 50 offices there. I mean, they've had so much throughput of data and people around that Leeds area that they know that it's all kind of locked away in there, but what they were missing is that ability to make it relevant, which is now BriefYourMarket can obviously highlight, can't they, of all the key action points, and then again, as you said there, check to see who we're already talking to. Bit of a game changer there.
Exactly, and your historic clients. You know, that whole journey of all that data that he's had from moving from Solex and all that, we want to be able to maximize that and go, okay, well, you've got a load of people in your archive database, but the reality is people are moving every 8 to 10 years, so they're going to be on the move again at some point. So let's identify when they're on the move again using some of the technology that we've got, and be able to predict it before they even actually communicate with you, so you can then start to softly nurture them and bring them into your journey.
Nurture them, like it.
Hey?
Just another point, I think, when you asked the question, what did we see in the BYM business? There's a lot of prop tech out there that actually gets sold to or packaged up to the customer base, i.e. the end user, the estate agent, which actually increases their day job rather than decreases their day job. It gives them more to do. They've got to learn about something they don't necessarily want to learn about or have the time to do so. And then they've actually got to press the buttons themselves. But one of the advantages of where I look back at the BYM business and looked at how it evolved since perhaps I'd even first seen it, is there's the managed part of their business where they basically become sort of a digital avatar alongside your business to assist you with actually doing the doing, rather than just sell you a piece of prop tech that you sort of get excited about, you use, and then you forget about. So what I quite liked about the business model of BYM is it's more of a holistic view of how you use data, with someone actually doing some of the work for you rather than just sending a bit of prop tech.
I think that's so important, John. You look at it, and in my day, you know, looking at some of this more, let's face it, so what we're doing in the CRM world, what you guys are doing over there, some of it is hugely complex, and actually that ability to just, you know, get it out of the box and expect it to magically work like that one day. So the amount of times that actually people have, you know, kind of done it, well, like every one of my partners, it's not me, it's you. Or is it the other way around? I can't remember. Yeah, it's not, you know, it's not you, it's us. Is because they haven't had that time. So what I love about that is what Damon and Rich here have done. He said, look, that's just a fact of life. Everyone's got, you know, too much on their plates. So we're gonna help take a little bit away from you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's either using technology where we've automated it. Yeah. So, you know, wind the clock back 20 years, people go and posting 2020 cards out to the 40 nearest neighbours when they sold a house. Then it moves to, okay, well, we've got some technology that you can select the 40 nearest neighbours and be able to send it out remotely using a postal system, to now it identifies on the feed that you've sold a house. It automatically identifies the 40 nearest neighbours and it automatically sends it for you. You don't do anything. So it's either fulfilling that with technology that does it all for you, or it's fulfilling it where we go, you need some human resource, you need some human input to it, but you might not have time in your day job because you need to focus on going out and winning an instruction. So it's one or the other.
Yeah, Rich, and I think just to add on to that, we've even gone a step further, Simon, now that says, well, if we know your data that you already had them, then why would you send the canvassing card? Why wouldn't you send an email first? And if you don't open that email, then we'll send the canvassing card. So that's going back to your point about amalgamating all the data from the history and injecting it in the system, so the system is intelligent enough to do the right action at the right time on the right medium.
That's really important point. Thank you, John. What was it? Why was the timing right for that deal? You know, did the current market play a part in that, or was it just, you know, the sliding doors moments when the opportunities come up?
I think we have a vision that we can consolidate the technology that we feel outside of the portal relationships, the CRM relationships that agents are going to need in one ecosystem, one environment, one dashboard, as Richard said earlier, and partnering with the guys at BYM, working with the guys at BYM, that's a big part of that. Rich and Damon will fill in about what our next stage is and how far we are down the bringing this together. But the reality is, I look back at my days of running inter-county thinking, well, and the knowledge I've got now for the learnings of the technology, and go, what are the bare minimums that I feel I need to digitalize my business? And the point to get across here, and it's actually a Peter Knightism, not mine, I learned it from him, but it's like having the Swiss Army knife, really. You know,
I guarantee, John, he will have nicked that from someone else, so don't worry.
Yeah. Good point. It's like the Swiss Army knife. You've got everything in one. Yeah. In other words, you've got a corkscrew there that opens the bottle of wine. It might not be the best corkscrew in the world, but it opens the bottle of wine. Yeah. So, and it's just having that ability to have one relationship with a supplier rather than 12, which is just bonkers.
Yeah.
Substantially reducing your cost base by doing that. You know, you're not having to pay 12 organizations to keep turning up every day.
Yeah.
You have a relationship with one or two or three, and an ability for us to then serve up a ecosystem where your lead generation, your lead management, and your return on investment is proved to you in one place.
Yeah.
All sounds very simple. People far more brainier than me, Richard and Damon, will deliver on it, but that's the vision.
And that's key. Two things you said there. So if on average you have those 20 different suppliers, there's no way an average agent, you know, busy as they are anyway, can dedicate the right amount of time to each of those 20 suppliers to get the most out of them. They keep telling us they want less relationship, but they can spend more time with to really maximize.
Yeah, and I think, you know, cost efficiency is important. It's often not talked about in agency, but you know, there will no doubt be more focus on costs going forward, and I think a sensible view is to look at your cost line, and if you can work with one partner and reduce your cost in the long run, then why wouldn't you consider that, as long as you're getting the service you require? Josh
Fegan came up to the stand and he looked in the Kerfuffle book about, you know, saving costs and everything else. He saw the quote that I'd quoted from himself, Josh Fegan: "The only thing you are truly 100% in control of is your cost base." And he said, "I never said that." But regardless of the fact that I made that up, it's still absolutely wrong. He did say it, by the way, he just forgot. It's absolutely true, isn't it, John? We're going into another more challenging market. We know how stodgy pipelines are, so you think over here you're patting yourself on the back, you've done the business, and yet the cash flow ain't happening. You know, we are seeing across the board now. It's not sat here as some sort of pink, sort of Grim Reaper or anything else, but we're seeing people are shipping, suppliers. And when we go back to them and ask, why are you doing that? It's because they're saying, look, things are just tightening up out there. And yes, in the last 2 years, where it's been all, you know, one of the best markets we've had, we're now paying much more attention to that. And that's where everyone's going to be on top of their game, being able to show exactly what they can do. And that's why the second point I was going to say, John, is, of course, that point you made there is that these guys are continually now sat down, whether it's Mike from Property Jungle or it's Ben from Starbury or, you know, the Lead Pro guys, Let's Pay. They're all looking at how can this fit together and how can we, you know, save all those duplicated sign-ons, the rekeying of data, and that's again another big plus, isn't it, Damon? I mean, I don't imagine how many whiteboards you guys have to have up to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the point I was going to make, which was you talk about the challenges just having 20 relationships, but the challenge for us is where the drop points are between the softwares as well. And actually, you know, John talked about earlier about why we did the deal. That joining that together has been a passion of mine and Richard's and John's and yours, Simon. I remember talking to you about it 12 years ago. But, you know, you do want that single point, and it's not just a single point from you as an operative or, you know, and as an agent. It's actually the single point for your customer as well, so you can maximize the journey. So, you know, that's really prevalent. And I think the other thing about how many whiteboards and stuff like that, yeah, we've absolutely agonized over it. And we're going to talk a bit later on about the ecosystem, and we hope we've got that right. And it'll be coming out soon, hopefully.
Well, 12 years, that's about the standard time for me doing something. So I'm glad that we've managed to wrap that up. So
well, you wasn't involved in it, so that's about the standard as well. So.
I think, Simon, just to add a bit more as well, there is an element of a bigger picture of a sort of our why, and what we're trying to do is unlock the housing market in some way as well, and say, look, the part of the issue that we've got is if we can make communication better, then you will unlock the housing market. So I'll give you a classic example of one thing that Damon has been working on. Literally, part of the issue is change breaking, and that may become an issue going forward. Well, within our environment, within our ecosystem, we're working with partners where we can serve up an instant offer as soon as there's a fall through. Might not be the offer that you'll choose, but it'll keep the chain together whilst you renegotiate and necessarily find another buyer. And that's instantly happening using data. As soon as there's a fall through in the organisation, it will turn up. It'll be an instant offer.
That's really powerful. Yeah, really.
Now that isn't whether, you know, that's just allowing the conversation with the client. Say, look, it's not falling through. You're not going to lose your dream house. There's a potential opportunity here. Yeah. But we don't have to take opportunity, but at least we can hold the chain together. And that's how we can use data with partners to try and unlock the housing market. And actually make more transactions happen rather than less.
If the government isn't going to sort it out, we're going to do it for ourselves. There's some sort of, yeah. Okay, Damon, could I just ask just the one quick question? Because it's like, you know, you'd made some key acquisitions as we've spoken about before over the last 2 years. Can you just tell us about that journey? And of course, what was the business decision around those purchases?
Yeah, I think Rich touched on it earlier, which is what we realized with the BYM software was we were generating lots of leads. And unfortunately, we were getting into a little bit of the right move scenario where we were generating leads, and therefore some were getting executed well and some were not getting executed as well. So when we started to really agonize, Rich and I, in the BYM business pre-nurture, it was all about how do we go further down the journey so we could ensure the very valuable leads that we were creating actually were executed and did give a return on investment and not just not answered. So when we did that, we started looking at obviously lots of businesses, and I think we looked at 26, if I remember, in total, Rich, over quite a short period of time. And Yondell was an absolute perfect fit. It really fitted well. And what was really interesting when I was reflecting on this in preparation for this meeting, Simon, when you go and have a look then at the other 26, and I'm going a little bit on it, it became completely apparent that Nurture was on exactly the same journey as us. And they'd done it from the other angle. So they'd started at websites and lead management, and we'd gone contact management and web traffic. So it was all about proving ROI, making sure we could execute that ROI and maximizing return. And again, doing what John was saying earlier, which is ensuring that we were making life easier for agents by taking processes that they might not happen to do because they're incredibly busy talking to customers, which is the right thing, and digitalizing the business.
Out of all of that, I'm just stunned that you did any prep for this webinar. That's unlike you to normally look up. A lot more prep than you do, and you know that.
I can assure you the one person on the screen that would have done most of the prep is David.
And actually, well, let's talk about that, because obviously you've been appointed, which is obviously fantastic, as CTO of the Nurtur Group itself. You know, what are you going to be focusing on? What's obviously, it's not like you didn't have enough on your plate with Brief Your Market now. Just give us a flavour of how that's going to broaden out with the whole group itself.
Yeah, just going back to prep, you missed the question, but we'll come back to it, I'm assuming. And then
oh, you've ruined. We're pretending we're having a nice natural conversation. Now they're going to know we're doing up a script.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'll edit it back in. Don't worry.
Thanks. Yeah, appointed as CTO of the Nurtur Group. I think what's really the core focus of the business, and I think you've got to go all the way back to what John's core focus has been and is for Nurtur, and has been for quite a period of time, and that is to lock in on the pillars, which is the relationship with agents. So, you know, John talked earlier about you have a relationship with portals, you have a relationship with CRM, and then you have a relationship with Nurtur. So my core focus, which John's clearly mapped out, is that we focus on a center of technology, the best in class technology, and how we join all that together to demonstrably prove return on investment, make agents' lives easier, and actually save them money through the process. And just to put some more color on that, it's ensuring that, like I touched on earlier, that we don't have any of the drops by the technology being disparate. So when you have technology which works in harmony, you can scale a lot further across the tech and ensure that you maximize the revenue per head of the customer, so that they always maximize the opportunities inside that organization, and become as profitable as they can. So that is really our core focus as a business. And what is incredibly fortunate for me, you've got, just on this meeting, John Cook's been in the industry 30 years, I read earlier on. So didn't really like to say it, John. And also Rich as well, that used to work inside the Guild and Fine and Country and done lots of facets. And then a plethora of other people. You know, John mentioned Ian McKenzie earlier on, and lots of others inside the business that have an in-depth knowledge of what agencies' challenges are completely close to the market, really understand the problems. And that makes my job a lot easier, because I'm writing technology that really solves real life problems.
Yeah, and that's vitally important. I think John made that point before. You know, those people you joined up around it, this wonderful blend of, it's not ivory tower techies in any shape or form. These are people, even if they've been in the tech side, they've been in this industry so long anyway, they've all absolutely lived and breathed it. But that wonderful, having both sides of the equation is really important for Nurtur, isn't it? Damon, something's just come to my mind. It's just a question that's there. Presumably others have contacted you over the years about acquiring Brief Your Market. So why now, and why the Nurtur Group? Is that the one I was meant to do?
Yeah, that was the one.
Well, obviously, you have been around this for so long. So what, I mean, other than what you've already said about, you know, in terms of Nurtur, is, you know, again, what was the key point?
Well, I think the first thing that probably need to clear up is that we've tried to put BYM and Guild and Fine and Country together, which was successfully the third time. That's been over a period of 10 years. We've all collectively on this group had the vision that BYM and Fine and Country and Guild working together is an incredibly powerful proposition. And that's because, you know, like we touched on earlier, that you've got the network, so you've got the real life requirements, and you can really dive into that. So I think the first one is, you know, it's been a kind of a 10-year dream. And then the second point to pick on is, like John said earlier, whenever you're doing a deal, it is predominantly about the people, whether you can work with them, whether you have a common view, and whether you believe that you can execute that view when you come into a new organization.
And that fact that you have worked together so much over the years on various different things, but you know, that must make it so much easier that you know these are people you can work with, and you know how each other works.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, you've got to have a common view as well, because there's no point saying, well, we can work together, but actually John wants to achieve X with pre-BYM and BYM wants to achieve Y, because you just pull at the seam. So, you know, it became incredibly apparent to us that, and I touched on it earlier, that John had the same view that we did, which is we wanted to move all tech together and solve real life problems. And also credit to John. He's built a great business with Nurtur. He's brought together the best in class, you know, like you touched on earlier, Ben Sellers, Mike, Sam at Lead Pro. And working in that environment, Simon, as you well know, with gifted people is just incredibly exciting. And then I think the third thing to pick up on is that you need to make sure that it's not just a finished thing now. It's like, you know, like John's bought all these businesses and then it's kind of like, stop, we're not doing any more.
Oh.
The thing that was incredibly exciting for us was John's vision of creating the accelerator, where he could then look for other businesses dependent on where they are in their journey, in that business's life cycle, straight from seed, you know, and all the way up, that you can add even more technology in, and this one-stop shop or ecosystem becomes more and more prevalent, and actually we can execute on it. Well, so there were lots of facets on why it was the right deal.
Okay. Oh, we're going to get to. I'm really keen to talk about that the incubation side of things there, but just on a more generic point and everything else there. Why do you think that prop tech is so important to this sector? I mean, is it just literally you'd be a fool to ignore technology as you would do elsewhere, or is there something specific about prop tech itself for agents that makes it especially relevant? And if none of you got it, then we'll conclude our webinar.
Yeah, I was going to say which one of us answering. Yeah,
that's one of those awkward silences.
I think. I mean, yeah, I was just pressing the button. So I think the reality is that agents' customers are finding lives more efficient, made more efficient by technology outside of the property industry in any other sector, and so we've only got to deliver on their aspirations for an easier user environment. As I said, it's not just about technology, it's about process as well now. So, and you know, in your life, when you come across an organization where the process is so slick because it's backed up by great technology in any form of your life, then you tend to think that's a great company to work with. Yeah, and so agents have got to embrace it, because that's what the customers are experiencing elsewhere, you know.
I think what we're seeing, aren't we, now, is that evolution as everything happens is sometimes, you know, we almost in the first iteration where it was just tech for tech's sake, but what's following now is the process behind that, where you can genuinely get to those efficiencies, isn't it? That's where I sense the most exciting things that are happening in this industry are really developing at the moment.
I think if you wound the clock back 10 years, we were at conferences back at Guild and Fine and Country conferences, actually standing on stage talking about, in the future, goods and services will come and find you. You won't have to find goods and services. And actually, fast forward to now, and that is exactly what happens. Right. Goods and services find you. And so technology has moved along to do that. Well, prop tech can't stay behind that curve. Prop tech also has to do exactly the same. So it's there to make. I know we're business to business in that the agent's servicing the consumer at the end of the day, but these technologies are there to make servicing the consumer easier and as efficient as they are in other verticals and other industries. So, you know, you only have to look at, you know, ordering a taxi now. You've got an app to do it with Uber, haven't you? And everything's making life easier. So we have to serve up that same technology for our customers, the estate agents, for them to use with their consumers to make life as easy and as intuitive as it is in all the other industries they'll relate to in their lives.
I think I get insanely, not just Uber Eats, obviously, I'm going to obviously do with that. When I saw Ben's innovation, you know, one of the things he was doing, I think for one of the Dubai leading agents there, and that ability, just like you've said everywhere else, here's, you know, being able to track the value of turning up to your appraisal there so that you're not waiting around. That just sort of, you know, that, because it always comes back to, isn't it? We always say, of course, you're being judged about your competitors here, but we're also being judged against technologists in the wider world, aren't we? And if
Yeah, you've been.
that customer service experience that they're seeing on the digital high street elsewhere, yet again, we're just going to get labelled with being behind the curve.
Yeah, big brands are setting up that bar. They're setting the bar really high for you to then have to compete with, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's what everybody's up against nowadays.
I think you've got to let your customer interact, your end user interact however they want to interact with you. So Starbury's just launched their My Account product, integrated with CRM, and that allows the customer, if they want to interact with a digital journey on their transaction, rather than telephone, or rather than speaking to people or going in the offices or whatever, then that option's there. Yeah. But you're giving your customer an option, not dictating to them how they have to transact with you.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about, John, isn't it? You know, that ability to have those kind of login sections, those landlord vendor portals and everything else, they've been with us for a year, but because they've come from, normally from the CRM companies, they've been a bit clunky, the UI's not been great. And so to have Ben come in there with the data now, but to reimagine that with the classic Starbury look and feel, is where we know that the customer is going to interact, and we're going to get far more interaction than ordinarily we would have had.
Yeah, I mean, if my advice to an agent would be is that your shop window is your website, and the functionality you have on your website needs to be controlled within your own environment, and you need that's key, because that's the value going forward. I mean, do you expect me to say that with web businesses?
I was going to say with 2 web businesses in here.
Yeah. However, we serve up a couple of web solutions, but the more investment you can do to interact with the customer on a platform that is owned by you, which is your website rather than anybody else, is probably the way forward. And certainly from a number of our customers, we're hearing that they like the fact that it's their website and the interaction is done on their platform. They're not beholden to other people.
How do you stand out from the crowd if you look like everyone else? That's the problem with the portals. They've made it generic, haven't they? So your website is one of the few places you can be that purple cow to stand.
Yeah, and then it's building out a website, building out a user experience that should the customer want to use the platform, and then putting the petrol in by at least having a digital strategy about how you attract people to your showroom, which is your website. And that's how some of our integrated platforms work, and the ecosystem will work to show, but with a relentless focus on return on investment.
So talk to us, John, about this. Talk to us about the accelerator. So this is one of I mean, obviously you've got the Nurtur Group, obviously, with these fantastic companies here, but you're also looking, one of the latest ones, for example, was Let's Pay, that's come into the mix as well. Talk to us about what accelerator means to you and what you're going to be doing with it in the future.
Yes, I shouldn't mention accelerator without mentioning your ex-business partner Gary, who sits on our board and actually is heading up our accelerator, because obviously he's got an ingrained knowledge of platforms and technology. So he heads up our accelerator, and it's really where we'll work with fledgling businesses, startups, or even mature businesses that are looking to attract some investment. But what I would call us is clever money rather than just money. In other words, open a door to knowledge, open a door to user groups. It's great to see, as I say, Ian McKenzie's out on the road at the moment getting feedback from agents about what they need, and we can feed that back into businesses that we work with. And all we ask of businesses that we work with, that customers of ours that want to take advantage of those products, get a beneficial rate, so that our customers are benefiting from our investments in the accelerator product. So it's a bit of a win for everybody. It's a win for us because we can look at the asset value of those investments as hopefully they grow. It's a win for the accelerator business because they get exposure and input and expertise from likes of Damon, Gary, Richard, and who are far more better at this sort of stuff than I am. And then the third aspect of it is the ability to access a customer base, but the customer base benefiting because they would need to offer a more preferable rate to those people.
And that's then just a perfect, it should be a virtuous cycle, isn't it? Everyone feeding off each other and everything.
Yeah, you tend to find in any business environment where there's a win-win-win for everybody, it tends to work.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, John, that I think about my own journey. 10 years ago, the accelerator would have been there. It would have circumnavigated me. There was probably 3 years worth of development
You didn't need an accelerator. You had Simon Whale. I made you. And by the way, we need to talk about your 15%. That's
Yeah.
coming to claim that at some stage.
Yeah.
It would have been a game changer for you, wasn't it? I mean,
it would have been absolutely.
You essentially were one of the first that had to knock on the doors of CRM companies, these other businesses, and everything else, and kind of make your own rules, weren't you? Find the way.
Yeah, we were completely trailblazing, and just so I can give you your just deserved, Simon, you were the first one from a CRM business to actually see it and value it and really let us integrate into Repeat. So
I was shamelessly going to steal all of the great. I wanted to hang on to your coattails, and I could see all the benefits there. It was that is one of the true things, isn't it? About you've got these wonderful companies coming together. It does become more than the sum of the parts at some stage, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like I say, it just circumnavigates such an enormous amount of learning, and that's what, like I say, if I was in my own journey 12 years ago or 10 years ago, I would have definitely gone into the accelerator, because I think we'd have grown the business faster than we did, because we'd had a lot of people around the table that had been there and done that and said, oh, well, we've seen that before. You don't want to do that. You might want to try that. So it really is a good program.
Excellent. And what do you see? What do you see more the future, John? You're just keeping your eye out for these. Obviously, we're encouraging everybody to, what's the website? It's is it nurtur.group? Is it
nurtur.group? Yeah.
And there's a full information on there. And in fact, if you are interested in more information, just go and put that on. And obviously, then Gary and his team will talk to you about how they can potentially help out in all the different ways.
Yes, yeah. I mean, giving you an example, we've got a great business, Gareth Let's Pay's business, which is a very clever piece of technology that helps you from a client account point of view, paying landlords, which is massively important if you run a lettings business, and that business is part of the accelerator, and we're working with our customers to see if it works for them. And Gary sits on the board and gives advice as to how the product can evolve and how to open doors to customers across the UK. So that's a small example of a business that we're working with at the moment.
I was with another client, a really big Manchester agents, actually. Well, it's not fair to mention them, but I was talking to them the other day, and they were mentioned just by the by that they were looking at Let's Pay. And for him, he saw it as absolutely transformational in terms of how he would get that economies of scale and be able to scale up from 1,500 managed properties into the 2,000s and 3,000s without having to take on that kind of the normal level of people and staff that you would have to have. That again is where one of these things becomes really weird, because with increased compliance, with legislation and everything else, it's so hard to get that rolling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Let's Pay product allows the landlord to have their own basically wallet where the rent gets paid into, and literally pay your landlords at a press of a button. And therefore, if you scale, you're not having to put literally more people into the business, and that sort of ticks the cost element as businesses scale. So,
well, I need to say congratulations, because of course, as you know, actually at EA Masters, obviously the biggest show of the year, Starbury, although they were named in the top 3 innovations across the entire thing, it was actually the element of the group bit that was the bit that caught people's attention above and beyond. What fantastic work there. So I think that's something that's going to be, it is really unique at the moment in terms of that thing. And I think, those clients who are lucky enough to be on board now are starting to see some of the benefits, but as you entwine those systems and get those efficiencies, that's only going to increase, isn't it, Damon?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, obviously we talked a lot about innovation, and we've always been very innovative, and we're pushing much harder on that. We're currently working on, we skirt around the edges quite a bit, the ecosystem. And that is about giving an agent a dashboard where all the nurture technology connects to each other, and therefore utilizing that data to be able to demonstrably prove ROI across all aspects. And like you said earlier, Simon, that is about, single authentication, one dashboard, not logging into loads of different localities.
I took the one dashboard to rule them all as a Lord of the Rings geek. I like that kind of analogy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And we're incredibly excited about that. And we're only excited about it because every single customer that we've interacted with, we're agnostic of brand, so whether it's BYM or Starbury or TPJ or Guild, that is what they're crying out for. That is what becomes loud and clear from everybody that says, I just want one place, systems all joined together, so we can actually create a harmonious journey across all technology. So currently writing that at the minute. It's due to come out in Q1 next year. And we really think
we are recording this, Simon, aren't we?
I've got it. It's brilliant. If this is what we have to do to trap techies, and then
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to bother looking at any. I'm not going to bother looking at any sprints anymore. I'm
not even releasing this out to the internet. This was literally just for you. Guys, I want to just finish one, because I appreciate I kept you on for far too long. I said it'd be 20 minutes. There was no chance of that once we got into the level of detail. But, you know, in today's competitive market, we're talking about leads, loads, then, and lead generation is always vital, of course. But why is it so important, and how should those leads be nurtured now to get the best possible ROI? Because this has come up a couple of times now, but I don't think at any time it's been any more important.
Rich, do you want to answer that one?
You go for it, mate. You go for it.
Oh, brilliant. Look at that. I love that.
Yeah. So I think is what we talked about earlier, that capturing the lead at the very first part of the journey, and then making sure that that is executed, and also making sure that it doesn't drop out any stage. And also when you become busy, that it's consistent and persistent. So if you just think through about the technology that's within the Nurtur group now, you've got, comes in from a portal, and it's actually consumed instantly, and therefore it can be answered instantly, and it can give a consistent message out to the customer, and therefore that's really a heart of where all leads begin. You then take that into a wider concept, and you say, if it doesn't just come from a portal, it comes from any website, or it comes from Yondell or a lead management. So that then becomes any form of lead management. And therefore that's where the lead pro system is really at the heart of the early part of the journey. And also what you can do with that is you can actually start to introduce other products and services. So even if you're not maximizing the highest penetration at that point, you're starting to educate the customers that this is the journey that they're going to have to go on to either buy or sell a property. And therefore you're becoming educational. And that really deals with the instantaneous heart, or, you know, the real, like, I want to do it now. And then you start to back that up with BriefYourMarket, where we take those instant journeys, and we still carry on through education, but we also take in the people that have then decided that their journey is going to pause for a period of time. And we don't want to lose connectivity with those customers, because we want to keep our brand forthright and center. So BYM carries on nurturing the journeys. Then you've got to remember that actually there's another pot of customers that might not go and use your agency, and they might go and use a different agency. And that's where Richard were talking earlier about on-market data. So then we could draw that back into BYM, educate our customers that says, we know you had a shot, and we know who they are, or sorry, you know who they are, and actually they didn't choose to use your service at that time. Well, let's go and educate them again about why they should use your service and win products back. So it's incredibly important that you manage leads. And I think one of the concepts that Rich talked about, Andy and Mackenzie sent me, you know, a quote that says, if you turn marketing off, it's like stopping your watch and trying to seize time. It is the heart of what a business should do in any market, because you've got to be the best agent and prove that you're the best agent every second of every day.
See, I knew you were cold to start off with, but I knew once we get you into your sweet spot, you'd start getting all passionate about it. And it's important. I think one of the key things is we've got to stop agents talking, which becomes self-fulfilling. If you start deeming leads as tire kickers, and you treat them as tire kickers, don't act surprised when you reply to them one day, 2 day, not at all, that they don't turn into it.
Completely
I don't know how long I've been saying, I don't believe that agents are actually short of leads. How you actually manage the, the hottest ones to get to the, the Glengarry, Glen Ross kind of leads in the quickest possible thing. That's where the real money will be earned. But also making sure that you don't miss out on nurturing the leads in general as well is amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's not just nurturing the lead on a single solution, Simon. So, you will definitely want to sell them a house, but or, you want to sell their house, but you also want to sell them a mortgage and a conveyancing and insurance. And, and that really spiders. I'm always fascinated with the market and always have been, because it really is the backbone of the country. And, being able to influence that is incredibly powerful.
Great. Gents, I can't thank you enough. It sounds so exciting in terms of what you're doing there. Obviously, we need to catch up on there. I think, Rich, we've got a webinar scheduled next month as well to talk about Know Your Market. You've got something really innovative you're doing with Tony, obviously, Mr. Doctor himself, isn't it? And all that mystery shopping. In fact, I don't know how many webinars we're going to have to do before we get to the bottom of just everything you do, but until I get bored, we'll keep going with that. So, John, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Simon. Good to meet you.
Good to meet me.
Good to meet him.
I
Again.
think you've met me in a while. I'll forward on this recording so you've got Damon held to account as well. That's an important one. Rich, thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Jerry Maguire, look there, that's perfect. And Damon in your perfectly white top, looking beautiful as ever. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Simon. Take care, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.